Okay, so we're diving into something pretty amazing this time. The journey from a single fertilized egg all the way to a newborn baby.
Yeah, it's incredible when you really break it down.
And I know our listeners are here for the details. They want to understand the science, but also get that sense of awe. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've gone through a lot of research, and what we'll try to do here is highlight those key moments, those milestones, that really showcase just how intricate and, frankly, mind-blowing this whole process is.
Right. So where does this whole incredible transformation actually begin?
Well, it all starts with ovulation. This is when an egg is released from the ovary and it travels into the fallopian tube.
And that's where it can potentially meet a sperm.
Right, exactly. And that's the moment of fertilization, and it usually happens really quickly within about 24 hours of ovulation.
That's a pretty small window.
It is, and if a sperm manages to penetrate that egg, that's when you get a zygote.
So what is a zygote exactly?
A zygote is just one single cell, but it's an incredibly important one because it contains the complete genetic code for a new human being.
So it's like the blueprint.
Yeah, it's the instruction manual with DNA from both parents, and this single cell starts dividing super rapidly.
Wow. So from one to many in just a few days.
That's right. And this little cluster of cells, which we now call a blastocyst, it has to make its way to the uterus.
That's quite a journey.
It takes about 6 to 10 days for the blastocyst to travel down the fallopian tube and then implant into the uterine lining.
That makes sense because that's when a pregnancy test would start to show positive,
Yeah,
right?
exactly, because that implantation triggers the production of a hormone called human chorionic gonadotropin, or HCG, and that's what those tests are designed to detect.
So that little hormone is the signal that something incredible is happening.
Absolutely. Now, around week 3, this little blastocyst officially becomes an embryo, and this is where things get really interesting.
So what happens during the embryonic stage?
This stage lasts until about week 8, and it's a period of incredibly rapid development. The foundations for everything are being laid down.
Like what kind of foundations?
Well, one of the most important is the neural tube, which is the precursor to the brain and spinal cord.
So the nervous system is starting to take shape.
Right. And at the same time, the heart, which is the very first functional organ, begins to beat.
It's like a tiny little engine starting up.
Exactly. And what's amazing is that by the end of this embryonic stage, just a couple of months in, the embryo already looks like a tiny human.
Wow. That's a lot of progress in such a short time.
It really is now. At around week 9, the embryo graduates to the fetal stage.
So what changes during this transition?
The focus shifts a bit from those initial rapid developments to growth and the refinement of all those organs that started forming earlier.
And I guess this is when those first movements start to happen.
You got it, those early flutters that eventually turn into kicks and punches as the fetus gets bigger and stronger.
And throughout the second and third trimesters, those movements just keep getting more powerful.
Definitely. But those later stages are also super crucial for lung and brain development, getting everything ready for life outside the womb.
I imagine those are some of the most complex parts of the whole process.
They really are. And in the final trimester, the fetus gains a lot of weight just packing on those reserves for that big debut.
And then finally, it's time for labor and birth.
Yeah, when the baby is fully developed, hormonal signals basically say, okay, it's time.
What happens next?
The cervix starts to dilate and contractions begin pushing the baby through the birth canal. It's pretty intense.
It sounds, and then after the baby is born, the placenta is delivered.
That's right. And that whole process from ovulation to birth usually takes about 40 weeks.
40 weeks. It's amazing how everything unfolds so precisely and efficiently, each stage building on the one before it.
It really makes you appreciate the power of biology, this intricate choreography happening within us.
You know, it makes me wonder what other complex processes might be going on inside us throughout our lives that we don't even realize.
Well, that's the beauty of science. There's always something new to discover.
I guess we're all a bit of a mystery, even to ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty awesome thought to leave our listeners with today.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners, keep exploring, keep wondering, and we'll catch you on the next episode of The Deep Dive.
See you then.